backlog, but a vision for the future of Philippine education. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Next to co-sponsor is Senator Win Gatchalian. Move that he be recognized.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, let me congratulate and commend Senator Bam Aquino for coming up with this very novel but very timely concept. Nasabi ho ni Senator Pia na talagang napakalaki po ang backlog natin sa classrooms. 160,000 ang kailangan natin para mahabol lang yung backlog natin sa classrooms. And that will cost approximately about 400 billion pesos. So kahit na mayroon tayong 400 billion pesos, Mr. President, hindi naman may implement kaagad because of absorptive capacity of the Department of Education. So the CAP program will liberalize the implementation of classrooms in our country, allowing local governments to build classrooms all at the same time. Yun po yung maganda dito. Pwedeng sabay-sabay ho nagko-construct ang mga local government units para sabay-sabay rin natatapos. They can also tap the private sector to build dahil nakita ho natin sa hearing na mas mura ang private sector pagko-construct ng mga classrooms, so we can tap CSO. And we can also come up with innovative modalities such as PPP para pumahabol natin yung 165,000 na backlog natin. So, Mr. President, let me again thank and congratulate our chairman of the Basic Education Committee for coming up with this very timely concept. And a more extensive co-sponsorship speech will be submitted to the body to be inserted into the records, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is Senator Erwin Tulfo.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise today to express my full support as co-sponsor of Senate Bill number 1482 under Committee Report number 6, which seeks to establish the Classroom Building Acceleration Program or CAP under the Department of Education. Nung ako po ay bumoto noong nakarang eleksyon, isa sa mga hindi ko po makakalimutan ay ang kalunos-lunos na kalagayan po ng ating mga silid-aralan. Mainit, siksikan, at minsan pa ay kulang sa upuan. Sa ganitong kalagayan, mahirap asahan na matuto ng maayos ang ating mga kabataan, Mr. President. Sa panukalang ito, binibigyan kapangyarihan ng mga lokal na pamahalaan at mga civil society organizations na makibahagi sa pagpapatayo ng mga silid-aralan. Isang konkretong hakbang upang mapabilis ang pagpapatayo ng mga ligtas, maayos at komportableng lugar para sa ating mga mag-aaral. Naniniwala po ako, Mr. President, na sa tulong ng programang ito, mas mabilis na maihatid ang dekalidad ng edukasyon, hindi lamang po sa salita, kundi sa mismong pisikal na espasyo kung saan nagsisimula ang kanilang mga pangarap. I would also like to thank Senator Bam for championing this classroom building acceleration program. Thank you, Senator Bam. Thank you, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa lahat.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Last to co-sponsor the measure is this presentation. May I be recognized, Mr. President?
Yes, the acting Majority Leader is recognized. Senator J.B. Ersto.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, good afternoon. It is an honor to rise today to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1482 under Committee Report number 6 or the Classroom Building Acceleration Program authored by the gentleman from Tarlac, Senator Bam Aquino. Batid po natin na sa kasalukuyan, isa sa pinamabigat na suliranin kinakaharap ng ating bansa sa sektor ng edukasyon ay ang malaking kakulangan sa silid-aralan ng ating mga pampublikong paaralan. This shortage directly affects the quality of learning and the dignity of our students and teachers alike. At napapanahon na po ang isang whole-of-nation approach upang tugunan at bigyan ng solusyon ang krisis na ito. Recognizing the magnitude of a classroom backlog, we acknowledge the necessity of forging stronger partnerships with the local government units and the private sector to expedite classroom construction nationwide. Through the implementation of the Classroom Building Acceleration Program, we aim to intensify, coordinate the efforts, and mobilize additional resources to ensure the timely delivery of adequate and quality learning spaces for all students. Pinasasalamatan natin si Senator Bam for championing the bill that seeks to address the glaring shortage of classrooms in the country. You have our full and unwavering support ensuring that this vital legislative measure is passed into law as soon as possible. Kaugnay nito, patuloy din po nating isinusulong ngayong 20th Congress ang Senate Bill No. 2 o tinatawag na Master Plan for Infrastructure and National Development Act. Layunin na panukalang ito na magtakda ng isang pangmatagalang bisyon at strategiya para sa infrastruktura upang masiguro na mga pangunahing social structures kagaya ng mga silid-aralan at iba pang pasilidad pang-edukasyon ay bahagi ng isang maayos na master plan na itataguyod ng tuloy-tuloy tungo sa pag-unlad sa mga susunod na henerasyon. Mr. President, for every classroom that we build, we also build opportunities. We open doors for learning, growth, and hope. Providing access to education is one of the greatest equalizers of society. At kapag may maayos na mga silid-aralan, may pantay na pagkakataon ng bawat Pilipino na abutin ang kanilang pangarap at makapag-ambag sa pag-unlad ng ating bansa. Mr. President, sa pagpasa natin ng panukalang ito, sabay-sabay tayong nagtatanim ng pag-asa at isang mas maginhawang bukas para sa minamahal na Pilipinas. With the permission of the sponsor, this representation would like also to be co-author of the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, Senators Mark Villar and Jigo Isa would like to insert to the records their co-sponsorship speech for Senate Bill number 1482.
So inserted into the records.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1482.
You know, with the number of sponsors and co-authors of this measure, it might as well pass it today. But nevertheless, because we have to follow the rules, we will have to suspend consideration and approve it afterwards. Yes, Senator Bamakino is recognized. Before I act on the motion,
Yes, Mr. President, I'd just like to thank our colleagues sa napakarami pong sumusuporta. Maraming salamat po. Alam ko pong maraming sumusuporta, hindi ko po ine-expect na marami po mag-co-sponsor at co-author. Thank you so much to our dear colleagues, and I hope this can be one of the measures where we can work together for the Filipino youth and the Filipino people. Salamat po.
well, I have good news for you. Senate Bill 1482, establishing the Classroom Building Acceleration Program, of which you are the principal author of and sponsor, is included in the LEDAC. So even the palace is backing up your bill. So the LEDAC priority list, it's included there. So congratulations. Anyway, any motion, any objection to the motion to suspend consideration? Hearing none, the consideration of the motion of the bill is suspended at this point.
Yes, Mr. President, our Senate President pro tempore would like to make a manifestation or he would like to interpret in the next once we resume
yes.
consideration
All right.
on this measure.
We will place that on record as soon as you schedule it. As soon as you schedule it for interpellation.
Mr. President, Senator Raffy Tulfo is seeking the floor for a manifestation. He will be making a report on his IPU mission, Mr. President.
Senator Raffy Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad to report back to the plenary my accomplishments in the recently concluded 151st IPU Assembly, which took place in Geneva, Switzerland on October 19 to 23. In attendance at the Assembly with me were Senator Erwin Tulfo as the head of the delegation and Senator Aimee Marcos, with the team upholding humanitarian norms and supporting humanitarian action in times of crises. I met with my counterpart delegates from Japan, Cambodia, and Myanmar and exchanged views on how we can further strengthen our government's friendship and cooperation. I also took this trip as an opportunity to meet and greet our kababayans working and living in Switzerland and France. Bilateral meetings in Japan. On the sidelines of the IPU Assembly, Senator Erwin and I met with Honorable Fuji Kazuhiro, who is a member of the House of Councilors of Japan. Bilang chairman ng Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, pinasalamatan po natin si Honorable Kazuhiro dahil sa magandang pagtrato ng Japanese employers sa 50,706 OFWs na nasa Japan. na malaki ang naitutulong sa ekonomiya ng Pilipinas sa pamagitan ng kanilang remittances. Isa sa mga napag-usapan po namin ang aging population ng Japan at aking pong inirekomenda kay Honorable Kazuhiro ang posibilidad na magbukas na mas marami pang employment opportunities para sa Pilipino nurses and caregivers. Lalo na ang Pilipinas ay kilala bilang isang bansa na mapagkalinga at marunong malasakit sa mga nakakatanda. We also discussed Japan's public mass transit system, and Honorable Kazuhiro mentioned that Japan has manpower shortage in the transport sector. Iminungkahi ko na maaari silang kumuha ng Filipino transport workers upang makapagtrabaho sa Japan. We will recommend for DFA and DMW to conduct bilateral talks to their counterparts to address specific issues about these. At akin po itong tututukan, Mr. President. Bakit walang mga videos? Nasaan? Kanina pa wala. Cambodia. Nakipagpulong din po ako kina First Vice President Och Burit at T. Sokun ng National Assembly of Cambodia upang talakayin ang problema sa human trafficking ng mga Pilipino sa Cambodia. Mr. President, I encourage the government's cooperation to put an end to the prevalent Cambodia-based scam hubs which abuse Filipino workers. Ang mga Pilipinong biktima ay naakit sa mapanlinlang na social media post na nag-o-offer ng malaking sahod, pero pagdating sa Cambodia ay hindi naman sila nababayaran ng tama at ang iba sa kanila ay nato-torture. I'm glad to report, Mr. President, that President Burit gave his commitment in solving this international issue. Myanmar. I also met with the delegation of Myanmar to raise concern over the recent raid on a major online scam hub in Myanmar, where around 222 Filipinos are currently seeking rescue and repatriation. We talk about how Philippines stepped up to host ASEAN earlier than planned. After Myanmar, the original host was unable to do so due to its ongoing civil war. Dahil sa patuloy na conflict at lumalalang humanitarian crisis, ipinahayag ko na ang kaligtasan at kapakanan ng mga OFWs sa Myanmar. Ang isa sa aking mga prioridad at sana sa tulong ng kooperasyon ng mga bansa sa ASEAN ay tuluyang mabawasan at mapigilan ang mga operasyon ng mga online scam hubs. Switzerland. Habang ako po ay nasa Geneva, nakipagkumustahan po ako sa ating mga kababayan na nagtrabaho at naninirahan doon. Mr. President, kasama si Sen. Erwin, we held a meet and greet with Filipinos at the Philippine Consulate General Office, all thanks to Ambassador Carlos Soreta. Bukod sa mga problema ang idinulog sa ating mga kababayan doon, ipinadala ko rin sa kanila ang kahalagaan o ipinaalala ko rin sa kanilang kahalagaan ng isinusulong kong Senate Bill number 90 o OFW Financial Education Act na layo mabigyan ng sapat na kaalaman ng mga OFW sa pag-manage ng kanilang pera. Ito ay para rin masiguro na hindi sila malulubog sa utang at may maayos na buhay pagbalik sa Pilipinas pagkatapos mag-retire sa trabaho sa abroad. I can say, Mr. President, that Filipinos in Switzerland are in way better condition than Filipinos working in other countries. Kasi nga po, halimbawa sa Hong Kong, marami po sa mga kababayan natin ang nalulubog sa utang. In fact, tumataas po yung bilang ng suicide sa bansang Hong Kong sapagkat hindi po alam ng mga OFWs natin kung paano nila i-manage ang kanilang finances. Marami sa kanila ang utang ng utang or dili kaya ginagamit sila bilang magbabouch sa mga kakilala at ng pagdating ng oras ay yung kakilala nila na kanilang binouch sa utang ay hindi nagbabayad. Doon na po pumapasok yung sila ay nadidepress hanggang sa sila gumagawa ng hindi tama against doon sa kanilang sarili. Paris, personal ko rin kinumusta ang ating mga kababayan sa France. Kasama ko si Ambassador Eduardo Jose de Vega at Consul General Noemi Diaz. At bilang Chairman Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, aki ibinahagi ang aking panukalang batas gaya ng pagtatag ng Migrant Workers Relations Commission. isang special court sa loob ng DMW upang mapabilis ang pagresolba ng mga kaso ng ating mga OFW nang hindi na kailangan dumaan sa mahabang proseso o magsumbong pa sa aking programa. Pagtatag ng OFW Action Center sa bawat probinsya at malalaking lungsod upang lahat ng serbisyo mula pre-deployment hanggang reintegration ay nasa isang lugar na lamang. Pagpapalawak ng OFW Dependent Scholarship Program mula sa dating 5,000 slots ay gagawin nating 10,000 slots upang mas maraming anak ng mga OFW, hindi lamang sa koleyo, kundi pati na rin mula elementarya hanggang high school ang makinabang. Sa Open Forum ay natalakay ang kakulangan ng trabaho sa Pilipinas na siyang pangunahing dahilan kung bakit maraming kababayan natin ang napipilitang mangibang bansa. I shared that this problem is precisely what I'm pushing for, an across-the-board minimum wage for workers in Metro Manila and the provinces. With this, workers across the country will have the access to good job opportunities without the need to migrate elsewhere. That's all, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for Special Orders Committee Report number 7 on Senate Bill number 1483. This is the bill on the extending the duration of Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM 2. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is approved. So transferred.
Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1483 under Committee Report number 7.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of Senate Bill 1483 is now in order. The Secretary is directed to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the records the whole text thereof.
An act extending the duration of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 11899, otherwise known as the Second Congressional Commission on Education, EDCOM 2 Act.
Majority Leader.
To sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize Senator Lauren Legarda, the chairperson of the Committee on Higher Technical and Vocational Education. So move, Mr. President.
Hearing no objection, Senator Lori Legarda is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Esteemed colleagues, I rise to sponsor Senate Bill number 1483 under Committee Report number 7, which seeks to extend the duration of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM 2, thereby amending Republic Act number 11899. EDCOM 2 was established in 2022 to undertake a comprehensive national assessment of our educational system and to recommend structural reforms that would strengthen its quality, equity, and responsiveness to national needs. There is no doubt that the Commission has carried out this mandate in a manner that honors the intent of Congress. Its principal reports, Miseducation, the Failed System of Philippine Education and Fixing the Foundations, a Matter of National Survival, offer the most rigorous, data-informed diagnosis of our education sector in recent memory. These studies describe persistent and systemic deficiencies that require sustained national attention, including critically low early childhood program participation, a classroom backlog of 165,000 units, chronic textbook shortages, widespread stunting and undernutrition among our youngest learners, and high attrition rates in higher education. Crucially, the significance of EDCOM 2 lies not only in its diagnosis, but also in how it has acted on those findings. The Commission brought together national agencies, local governments, schools, research institutions, and civil society partners to translate evidence into reform. Its work has informed legislation, guided appropriations, strengthened administrative coordination, and established pathways for institutional development. In the 19th Congress, the work of EDCOM 2 contributed directly to the passage of 10 landmark laws that expanded access, promoted equity, improved quality across our education system. While its mandate under RA 11899 concludes in December this year, EDCOM 2 has not entered a period of winding down. Instead, it continues to move with full momentum, compelled by the understanding that while much has been achieved, significant work remains to build the education system our people deserve. Currently, the Commission is developing several measures, including those identified as priority bills under the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC, for the 20th Congress. These include, first, amendments to the Masustansyang Pagkain para sa Batang Pilipino Act to expand and sustain the National Feeding Program. Second, amendments to the Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education Act to broaden voucher coverage to students from kindergarten to grade 6. Third, amendments to the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act to guarantee tertiary education subsidy eligibility to students who need it most. Fourth, amendments to the Teachers Professionalization Act to introduce practical components in licensure pathways and open multiple routes to teacher qualification. Fifth, amendments to the Local Government Code on Special Education Fund to align the SEF utilization with current education needs and to strengthen local education governance. And six, Classroom Building Acceleration Program Bill, just sponsored now and championed by EDCOM 2 co-chair Senator Bam Aquino, to close the classroom gap and to ensure adequate learning spaces nationwide. Informed by the work of EDCOM 2, I'm also honored to advance measures that address systemic gaps across basic, higher, technical, and vocational education, including the Last Mile Schools Bill, the modernization of the decades-old charters of CHED and TESDA to ensure that our institutions are aligned with the needs of the learners today. Beyond legislation, EDCOM 2's research has translated directly into program funding. Its recommendations on early childhood development resulted in an allocation of 1 billion pesos in the 2025 General Appropriations Act for the establishment of child development centers in 328 low-income local government units and 80 million pesos in scholarship support for the professional development of child development workers. The Commission also identified long-standing misalignment in professional education and licensure policies across CHED, TESDA, and the Professional Regulation Commission. This finding led to the creation of a tripartite council last month to harmonize curricula, training regulations, and licensure standards under a coherent national framework. Further, the Commission conducted hearings on education delivery in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, which underscored the need to clarify the respective responsibilities of national agencies and the regional government in implementing essential education and nutrition programs. Policy recommendations to strengthen coordination are now being refined. EDCOM 2 also served as a convener, bringing together DepEd, CHED, and TESDA in a historic first joint meeting to address system-wide reforms. As noted by TESDA Director General Jose Francisco Kiko Benitez, the Commission's evidence-based work encouraged agencies to move beyond their own little silos and work towards a more integrated education system. Undoubtedly, EDCOM 2 was the driving force behind the establishment of the Education and Workforce Development Group through Administrative Order Number 36, directly addressing the fragmentation identified in the Commission's Year 1 report and affirmed by the concurrent resolution passed by the Senate and adopted by the House of Representatives. This effective translation of research into reform is precisely what makes the role of EDCOM 2 indispensable. It has functioned both as a think tank and as a coordinating body, building trust and consensus among diverse stakeholders, including agencies, teachers, parents, and policymakers. To ground its recommendations, EDCOM 2 has commissioned 97 research studies, partnered with 91 organizations, conducted 44 workshops and consultations, 32 hearings, 9 site visits, and 3 benchmarking sessions or missions. This work was made possible through the dedication of its secretariat, led by its executive director, Dr. Carol Markey, and supported by its advisory council under the leadership of those who served as commissioners from both chambers of Congress, including this representation, together with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Joel Villanueva, Alan Peter Cayetano, Pia Cayetano, Chis Escudero, and Bam Aquino, as well as former Senators Sani Angara and Coco Pimentel, who served during the 19th Congress. While EDCOM 2 is on track to submit its final report and the National Education and Workforce Development Plan as it completes its 3-year mandate, the sustained implementation of its policy recommendations requires continued oversight. The task before us is to ensure that reforms are fully institutionalized. This need for continuity was affirmed by our key education agencies, DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, during the hearing of the Committee on Higher, Technical, and Vocational Education on October 8, where they expressed clear support for extending the duration of EDCOM 2. For these reasons, I respectfully submit for the consideration of this August Chamber Senate Bill number 1483, extending the duration of EDCOM 2 for an additional 2 years or until December 2027. This will provide the necessary time to complete the remaining legislative measures and to ensure the institutionalization of coherent and lasting reform across the system. We are at a moment when progress is within reach. The work has direction. The coordination is in place. The momentum is real. It is only right, Mr. President, that we see it through. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure, Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Francis Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader. To our distinguished colleagues, I rise today to co-sponsor Senate Bill 1483 as per the committee report of our esteemed colleague, Senator Loren Legarda. Sangayon ako sa panukala niyang palawigin at palawakin ang mandato ng ating Second Congressional Commission on Education. Napakataas ng nakataya at napakalaki ng pagkakataon. Hindi abstract na mga pulisiya ang gawain ng komisyong ito. Ito ang araw-araw na realidad ng mahigit 24 na milyong estudyante, magulang at guro. Ito ang kinabukasan at pag-asa ng mga pamilya sa buong Pilipinas. Tungkol ito sa halos 20% ng buong populasyon ng ating bansa. Buhay ng isa sa bawat 5 Pilipino ang huhubugin ng mga pasya sa edukasyon. Hayaan ninyong ibahagi ko ang kwento ni Ginang Castro mula sa Cavite. Isang dating guro na may 3 anak. Lahat ng kanyang bagets ay dumaan sa K-12 program. Bawat isa pumili ng iba't ibang senior high school strand. Pero nalaman niya kamakailan sa private school na dati niyang pinagtuturuan, pinutol na ang strand ng humanities, accountancy at STEM sa grades 11 at 12. At 2 tracks na lamang ang nanatili, academic at tech pro. Sabi niya, nawala ang lahat ng pangako ng programa. Dapat sana tapos na at nagtatrabaho na ang mga anak ko, tulad nung ako sa edad nila. Ngunit sa halip na sayang ang panahong hindi na may babalik. Mga pagkabigo at pagluluksa sa kanyang kwento, tuition at baon sa dagdag na taon at yung ang maraming taon na hindi na mababawi. Para sa mga pamilyang tulad ng kay Ginang Castro, dapat manindigan ang komisyon. Samantala, maraming public school teacher ang iisa ang kwento. Bumibili sila ng pagkain mula sa sarili nilang bulsa para sa kanilang mga estudyante na pumapasok ng gutom. Gusto nilang pumasok ding may pag-asa ang mga bata. Kaya ang expanded free meals program na panukalang batas ng inyong lingkod at na-hearing na ni Senator Bam Aquino ay ating isinusulong. Kailangan tulungan tayo ng EDCOM 2 na ibahin ang pag-asa na iyon at gawing regular at tunay na pagpapakain at pagkatuto. Hindi nagsisinungaling ang datos na idokumento ng komisyon ang malalim na mga kakulangan sa pagkatuto. Mga batang magtatapos sa grade 3 na hindi marunong magbasa ayon sa antas ng baitang. Walang mga basic na kasanayan, mga gurong napakaraming gawain at mga gumuguhong paaralan. Ganun pa man sa likod ng mga datos na ito, may mga pangarap na ipinagpaliban. Mga bata, malabo nang mabawi ang nawalang oras. Mga guro na sa bingit ng pagkahapo. Pero ang tungkulin na hindi lamang ayusin ang nasira, dapat din nating likhain at buuhin ang isang sistema na magbibigay ng ugat at ng pakpak. Ugat para sa katatagan, pakpak para sa pag-unlad. Roots and wings. Hayaang ituro ng bagong kurikulum ang mga bakit at paano. Hayaang matuto ang mga mag-aaral ng bayanihan, ang pamana ng ating lahi na nagsasama-sama sa krisis at pag-asa, sa hirap, sa ginhawa. Hayaang pag-aralan ng mga maritime school, hindi lamang ang foreign navigation, kundi ang mga gawain sa dagat ng ating mga ninuno na subok na ng panahon. Sa agriculture schools, bakit imported na binhi at chemical lang ang itinuturo? Pagsamahin natin ang global advances at ang likas na kaalaman ng mga magsasakang Pilipino. Nakaraniwan ay angkop sa ating lupa, sa ating klima at sa mga hamon ng climate change. Malinaw ang ulat ng EDCOM 2. Tayo ay nasa krisis, ngunit nasa isang sangangdaan din tayo. Ipinakita sa ating ng komisyon kung saan nabigo ang polisiya. Ngunit itinuturo din ito ang daang pagsulong, pagtawag para sa mga foundational investments sa maagang literacy at nutrition. Nutrition nga raw ay foundational sa learning. Para sa updated at relevant din na curriculum, para sa mga better trained at better supported na mga guro, para sa isang whole of government action. Bigyan natin ang komisyon na ito ng oras, dagdag na kasangkapan at mas malawak na mandato para makumpleto ang mga gawaing nabanggit. Bigyan natin ng hustisya ang mga Castro at ang hindi mabilang na pamilya, guro at estudyanteng umaasa sa atin. Bilang pangwakas, alam nating lahat, pag namuhunan tayo sa edukasyon, namuhunan din tayo sa kinabukasan ng bawat Pilipino, namumuhunan din tayo sa kinabukasan ng Republika ng Pilipinas. For these reasons, Mr. President, I wholeheartedly co-sponsor Senate Bill 1483 and urge its immediate approval. Maraming salamat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure, Senator Joel Villanueva. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. President, I rise to co-sponsor the measure extending the duration of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM 2. We'd like to put on record our sincerest thanks and gratitude to the sponsor, Senator Loren Legarda, for including Senate Bill number 103, filed by this representation, together with Senators Pia and Alan Cayetano and Escudero. Mr. President, as one of the commissioners of EDCOM 2, I have seen firsthand how the Commission has worked tirelessly to understand and fix what is broken in our education system. In just 2 years, EDCOM 2 has completed numerous research studies, consultations, and school visits nationwide. These conversations with teachers, learners, parents, and local leaders have helped us visualize and clearly define and describe the state of our education system, as well as the much-needed interventions. The Commission's Year 2 report, aptly titled Fixing the Foundations, a Matter of National Survival, tells us that the learning crisis is not abstract. 1 in 4 Filipino children under 5 is stunted, and many of our grade 4 learners still struggle to read with understanding or do basic math. These are not just education statistics. They are a warning light for our nation's future. Despite well-intentioned reforms and higher budgets, our students continue to lag in international assessments, such as PISA 2022, where we rank among the lowest in reading, math, and science. The issue is not effort. Mr. President, it is coherence, coordination, and follow-through. Mr. President, EDCOM's 2's findings are now crystallizing into actionable reforms. Reforms on teacher quality, early childhood education, curriculum relevance, and stronger alignment between learning and work. To stop now, Mr. President, would mean losing our hard-won momentum and the depth of consensus we have built across sectors. Mr. President, extending EDCOM's 2 mandate is not about prolonging a study. It is about ensuring that these reforms reach the finish line, backed by data, consultation, and urgency. In closing, may I say, Mr. President, once again, that education remains our nation's greatest equalizer. Let us give this commission the time it needs to finish the job so that every Filipino learner from preschool to professional life can truly thrive. Maraming salamat po, and may God bless us all.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is Senator Bamakino. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Bamakino is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, nais po nating magpahiwatig ng ating kagustuhan, mag-co-sponsor at mag-co-author sa panukalang ito. Alam ho natin na napakahalaga ng gawain ng EDCOM. Nandito po sila. We all know that their work is really important at dahil po sa kanilang trabaho, marami pong nailabas ng mga datos na kinakailangan ng mga policymakers para makagawa ng mga magaganda, mabubuti at responsive na batas para po sa ating kabataan. So we wholeheartedly support Senator Legarda, my counterpart in the Committee on Higher Education, and we hope that through this effort, the EDCOM work can continue and that they will be present to see these reforms come to pass. So maraming salamat, Mr. President, and we will move to insert a lengthier co-sponsorship speech in the records. Maraming salamat po.
All right. Majority Leader.
Next to co-sponsor the measure is Senator Risa Ontiveros. I move that she be recognized.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, magandang hapon po. Today, I rise to co-sponsor the measure extending the term and expanding the mandate of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM 2. As one of the authors of this proposed measure, I wish to thank our chair, Senator Lauren Legarda, for her leadership and steadfast commitment to ensuring the continuity and eventual institutionalization of the reforms initiated by EDCOM 2. EDCOM 2 is more than just a review of our education system. It is our collective national effort to ensure that Philippine education truly prepares our learners for the future. The expanded mandate of EDCOM 2 seeks to align our curricula, teaching, and assessments with global standards, improve infrastructure, resources, and teacher development, and update our national education agenda to fully integrate digital transformation, artificial intelligence with protocols and safeguards, and green innovations for a future-ready workforce. This measure is not only about global competitiveness. It is first and foremost about our people. Ang tunay na layunin ng reforma sa edukasyon ay ang pagpapaunlad ng ating human capital, isang haligi ng pambansang kaunlaran. When we strengthen education, we strengthen every Filipino's capacity to dream, to innovate, and to contribute to our country's progress. While the substitute bill does not adopt my earlier proposal to transition EDCOM 2 from policy formulation to executive action through the establishment of an education cabinet cluster, I fully acknowledge and welcome the creation of the Education and Workforce Development Group. Its mandate to align education and training with national goals, craft a 10-year development plan, streamline interagency efforts, and monitor reforms is a crucial step towards a coherent, responsive, and future-ready education and workforce system. Let us ensure that these reforms are not only written into law, but also felt in every classroom and community. Education remains our most powerful equalizer, ang pinakamabisang sandata laban sa kahirapan, at susi sa mas makatao at maunlad na kinabukasan. Marami pong salamat, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Yes, next to co-sponsor the measure, Senator Pia Cayetano. I move that she be recognized.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Mr. President, I rise today to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1483 under Committee Report number 7. This bill seeks to extend the duration of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM 2, for 2 more years. As a former commissioner of EDCOM 2, I have had the privilege of working closely with our education partners in assessing and understanding the true state of Philippine education. Through rigorous research and nationwide consultation, we have seen both the magnitude of our challenges and the opportunities to pursue meaningful and lasting reform. In just 3 years, EDCOM 2 has produced groundbreaking reports, its Year 1 assessment exposing deep systemic fractures, and its Year 2 report fixing the foundations, released just this year, sounding an urgent alarm on the crisis in our early learning stages. These are not mere documents. These are battle cries for a Philippines where no child is left behind, and yet the work is far from done. The complexities we've uncovered demand more time, more deliberate action to turn findings into laws, recommendations into realities. That is why we must extend EDCOM 2 to ensure its momentum carries us through implementation, monitoring, and ultimately measurable progress. EDCOM 2's latest insights, drawn from the 2023 National Nutrition Survey and corroborated by UNICEF data, reveal that 1 out of every 4 Filipino child is stunted. That's 23.6% of our youngest citizens suffering irreversible damage from chronic malnutrition before they even step into a classroom. These figures are not just statistics, they are a call to action. EDCOM 2 is also made it clear education reform begins with investing in people. We cannot expect our schools to deliver quality education if they lack the basic manpower to function effectively. EDCOM 2 found that about half of our public schools do not even have a full-fledged principal. Many schools are also lacking administrative officers, planning and development officers, and guidance counselors, the very positions that keep a school system running smoothly and support the well-being of both learners and teachers. We must see through our investment in this manpower in school heads, admin officers, PDO guidance counselors, and the allied professionals who make inclusive education possible: speech pathologists, occupational physical therapists, and special education teachers. EDCOM 2's report highlights a persistent job skill mismatch in the Philippines, particularly among graduates of technical vocational programs, where nearly 2/3 end up in jobs unrelated to their training. While TVET education increases labor force participation, it does not consistently lead to quality or aligned employment. EDCOM 2 attributes this gap to outdated training regulations, limited industry participation in curriculum design, and weak school-to-work transition systems. These findings underscore the urgent need to align education and training with actual labor market demands, strengthen enterprise-based learning, and ensure that reforms, like those envisioned under EDCOM 2's extended mandate, translate into meaningful employment opportunities for Filipino learners. I also wish to note that the committee report explicitly takes into consideration our bill, Senate Bill number 103, which complements this extension by providing additional mechanisms for education reform and implementation oversight. EDCOM 2 has produced critical studies on learning recovery, teacher quality, early childhood education, higher education governance, and future skills development, studies that have already informed ongoing reforms in curriculum design, teacher training, and interagency coordination. These outputs have strengthened our understanding of what must be done to rebuild our education system after the learning losses caused by the pandemic and years of underinvestment. As the former chair of the Senate Finance Subcommittee that handled the budget of higher and basic education, I have always maintained that education is our country's most powerful and enduring investment. But for that investment to create real and lasting impact, it must be anchored on sound policy, guided by reliable data, and driven by evidence, exactly the kind of foundation that EDCOM 2 provides. As chairperson of the Senate Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovations and Futures Thinking, I view this extension as a reaffirmation of our commitment to SDG 4, quality education. Education is the foundation of all other goals, from gender equality to decent work, innovation, and inclusive growth. Education reform is not a sprint, it is a marathon. By extending EDCOM 2, we ensure that the work we have begun, built on evidence, collaboration, and foresight, continues until it leads to genuine transformation for every Filipino learner. Let us give EDCOM 2 the time it needs to complete its mission and to carry forward the vision of a Philippine education system that is inclusive, future-ready, and world-class. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, last to co-sponsor the measure, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, move that he be recognized.
Senator Robin Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa ating pinunong mayoriya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ginoong Pangulo, mga kasama ko mambabatas, magandang araw po uli sa inyong lahat. Tayo pong lahat ay produkto ng 1986 Revolution. Tayo po ay nasa ilalim ng 1987 Constitution. Ang sabi po ng mga eksperto, ang isa daw pong matagumpay na revolusyon ay ito po ang nasasaad. The new government typically implements significant educational reforms designed to align the system and with the new political and social ideology. The primary goals of education in this context often shift to fostering a new national identity, promoting civic responsibility, and developing a skilled workforce to support the new economy. Malungkot ko pong sasabihin, medyo na-disgrasya po tayo dyan, mga mahal kong kababayan, dahil hindi po natin na-achieve ito. Kaya ako po ay tumatayo ngayon bilang co-sponsor ng panukalang paluwigin ang Second Congressional Commission on Education o EDCOM 2. Sa ating mahal na bayan, malinaw pong nakikita natin na ang krisis sa edukasyon ay hindi lamang numero, hindi lamang datos, kundi muka at buhay ng bawat batang Pilipino na patuloy na umaasang may lugar sila sa mas magandang kinabukasan. Kaya ako po ay nakikiisa sa ating mga pangunahing may akda upang tunay pong sabihin natin na nagtagumpay ang revolusyon noong 1986 bilang miyembro ng Committee on Basic Education at Committee on Finance. Nakita ko po mismo ang sakripisyo ng ating mga guro at ang hirap ng ating mga magulang. At bilang isang ama, ramdam ko sa puso ko na hindi makatarungan ng ating kabataan ay lumaki sa sistemang hindi natutugunan ang kanilang mga pangarap. Isa pong napakasakit tingnan na ang mga anak ko'y nag-aaral sa mga pribadong eskwelahan. Ngunit bilang isang senador, ang mga batang Pilipino ay naghihirap sa mga silid-aralang siksikan sa pampubliko mga paaralan. Gurong pagod na pagod pero patuloy na naglilingkod. Kabataang nagtatangkang mangarap kahit paminsan ay tila kulang ang kanilang preparasyon para sa mga magiging hamon ng buhay. Ito pong pagsulong nito ay isang hamon po sa ating lahat na mambabatas dito sa taas na kapulungan at sa malaking kapulungan sapagkat nakakahiya po ng ating mga anak ay nag-aaral sa mga pribadong paaralan at ang iba ay nasa international schools pa. Ang papapalawig sa EDCOM 2 ay pagkilala na ang sugat ng ating sistema ng edukasyon ay malalim at kailangan ng mas masusing pag-aaral, mas mahabang konsultasyon at mas matibay na pagkilos. Kaya ako po'y nagpapasalamat sa ating mga kasama sa komite, lalo na po sa aming hinahangangang magandang Senadora Loren Legarda at kay hinahangaang Senador Bam Aquino dahil pinakita ninyo na ang edukasyon ay laban ng buong Senado at bilang kasama po ninyo, buong puso po akong sumusuporta sa panukalang ito. Sana po atin pong isulong kung ano daw po ang nasa successful revolution, curriculum overhaul, expansion of access, language of instruction, teacher training recruitment, decentralization, control, base sa cultural at language, vocational and technical skills, at new infrastructure. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo would like to be made co-sponsor and request that his co-sponsors his speech on Senate Bill number 1483 be inserted into the records.
We will so insert into the records.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1483.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1483 is suspended.
Mr. President, the gentleman from Palawan, Senator Erwin Tulfo, would like to deliver a privilege speech. I move that he be recognized.
The gentleman from Mimaropa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen of this august chamber. Ako po ay tumitindig ngayon upang manawagan para sa ganap na proteksyon ng buong kabundukan ng Sierra Madre. Hindi lamang po sa Isabela, sa Hilaga, kundi hanggang sa lalawigan ng Quezon sa Timog. Noong Sabado at Linggo lamang, nang tumama po ang Super Typhoon Uwan sa Luzon, muli nating nasaksihan ang katatagan ng Sierra Madre. Siya lang naman po ang humarang sa unos, pumigil sa hagupit ng hangin, at nagligtas ng milyong-milyong buhay sa Luzon. Tahimik po niya ang ginampanan, Mr. President, muli ang tungkulin bilang ating tagapagligtas. Para pong isang ina na ikinubli ang kanyang mga anak sa dapat sanay nakamamatay na hagupit ni Uwan. Yet, Mr. President, despite its immense importance, the Sierra Madre remains under siege. Mining operations continue to carve scars upon slopes. Illegal logging and massive quarrying erode its soil. Infrastructure and resort developments threaten to fragment its forests. Gayong may mga batas naman gaya ng Republic Act No. 9125 o ang Northern Sierra Madre Natural Park Act of 2001 na naglalayong pangalagaan ito, nananatiling kulang at mahina ang pagpapatupad ng mga probisyong dapat sana'y nagpoprotekta sa natitirang likas na yaman ng ating bansa. Kaya naman, Ginoong Pangulo, nanawagan ako na agad suriin at pagtibayin ang pagpapatupad ng proteksyon sa Sierra Madre. Nararapat ang mas maigting na pagbabawal sa anumang mapaminsalang pagmimina, pagtutroso dito at pagtatayo ng lahat ng uri ng resort, bakasyunan man o permanenteng tirahan, kasabay na rin ang pagbibigay ng kabuhayang pangkalikasan sa mga katutubo at lokal na komunidad na tunay na tagapangalaga ng kalikasan. Mga kasama, kung ang Sierra Madre handang isakripisyo ang sarili upang tayo ay mailigtas, hindi ba't napapanahon na tayo naman ang magligtas sa Kanya? Mr. President, colleagues, how many more super typhoons must batter Luzon before we act? How many more floodings and landslides must claim lives before we finally give the Sierra Madre the protection she deserves? The Sierra Madre has saved Luzon countless times, from Typhoon Yolanda, Rolly, Paeng, and now Uwan. But who will save the Sierra Madre, Mr. President? It cannot speak for itself. It cannot march to this hall. It cannot plead for mercy against bulldozers and chainsaws. It relies on us, the people's representatives, to give it voice and legal protection. Ginoong Pangulo, mga kasama, ang Sierra Madre po ay buhay. Siya ang ating sandigan. Ngayon na ang panahon para ipakita na kaya rin nating ipagtanggol ang nagtatanggol sa atin. Kaya po, sasabihin ko, maraming salamat, Sierra Madre. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my fellow legislators.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Senator Erwin Tulfo, it is not only once that Sierra Madre has saved Luzon and the Philippines. Yes, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, Senator Rafi Tulfo is seeking the floor for a manifestation of support.
Senator Rafi Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. In line with the privileged speech of the Honorable Senator Erwin Tulfo, I would like to raise concerns on the protection of our environment, especially our protected areas. 3 years ago, I expressed my opposition over the Kaliwa Dam project because of the irreversible harm it will cause to the ecosystem of Sierra Madre and because of the affected indigenous communities. Several environmentalist groups further raised their concern on the threat to the lives of 100,000 residents once it's built, as it will be constructed within a zone of two active tectonic belts, the Philippine Fault Zone and Valley Fault System. At dahil nasita ang DNR, sinuspindi ang proyekto. Kung hindi pa nasita, tuloy-tuloy ang proyekto. Inamin ng DNR na hindi pa compliant ang proyekto sa zoning requirements. At the moment, may go signal na ulit sa Kaliwa Dam Project. Dahil ba nabaling na atensyon ng mga tao? Are the concerns of the indigenous people addressed? While the MWSS claimed that only half of the village will be affected, indigenous groups and villagers said the waters would submerge up to 90% of the village, as only houses situated 70 meters and above will be spared. Ito po ang matagal ko nang sinasabi at paulit-ulit. Ang ating DENR ay parati na lang pumapasok pag may kaguluhan na, pag may nadisgrasya na, pag may milyon nang nasira at marami nang namatay. Reactive at hindi po proactive ang ating DENR. Dapat po ang DENR anunguna sa pagpigil ng pag-aabuso sa ating kalikasan. Pero hindi po ganitong nangyari. Kasi po may nababayaran sa baba para mabigyan ng ECC. Pag walang nagreklamo, everybody happy. Pag may nagprotesta naman, hindi rin agad pinapansin hanggat hindi nag-viral o ma-pick up ng media o sa social media. Anong klaseng sistema meron po tayo? The problem with our environment, Mr. President, is that damages are often irreversible. Kaya dapat prevention ang priority natin, hindi rehabilitation. Dahil years and even decades ang kailangan to bring back any damage to our environment. And the cost is nowhere near any economic advantage that we can gain from some of the projects. And that is why we have the NEPAS Act, excuse me, or the environment, or the expanded National Integrated Protected Areas System Act. These are areas that we recognize as sacred and need absolute protection. But from our experience as Kaliwa Dam, sa resort, sa Chocolate Hills at sa Mount Apo, at sa wind farm energy projects at sa Masungi, ang mga regulasyon ay optional. Depende kung magkaroon ng kadahilanan. Sa magkanong kadahilanan? In some ways. Ang mga environment compliance certificates ay nabibili gaya ng mga birth certificates at diplomas dyan sa recto. I have discussed this matter with my fellow senators who are environmental advocates, and they agreed with me that we must review the INIPAS Act. There's a need to instill better regulatory system. Community participation in the regulation must be strengthened. But just like infra project, it is the communities that point out irregularities. It is the community that has genuine concern for the environment. Furthermore, we should include in the prohibited and penalized acts the participation of government officials in the prohibited acts, because the violation of our environmental laws are never committed without the consent or cooperation of a public official. Given po yan palagi. Sa katotohanan, naipakita ko na po kung paano paglaruan ang mga miyembro ng DNR, PAMBI, NCIP at iba pang ahensya para makakuha ng kakayanang babuyin ang ating protected areas. While the right price and the right friends, anything is possible. Meaning, walang imposible if the price is right. Oras na para bisitahin natin muli ang INIPAS at iba pang batas para wakasan ang ganitong klaseng bulok na sistema. With this, I commend and give my full support to the privileged speech of the good Senator Erwin Tulfo. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, likewise, I would like to support the privileged speech of Senator Tulfo. I'm also and I have seen how these developers, Mr. President, I have encroached into the Upper Marikina River Basin Protected Watershed. Ito po dapat ang parte ng Sierra Madre na nagpo-protection sa atin po sa Metro Manila. And dati po kami nagmo-motocross yan. We're going, especially during the COVID time. Kahit saan po nakakapunta kami sa Sierra Madre. But lately, in the last few days, hindi na po kami pinapayagan. May mga guardian tumipigil at may mga development na po. Rest houses, subdivisions, and that is very alarming, Mr. President, because Sierra Madre, indeed, is our protector. And I have raised this issue several times during the budget hearings of DNR. And I hope that we will, given these two big storms, that we have seen how Sierra Madre protected Metro Manila and other provinces, I just hope that we will continue to pay attention and be focused on this, Mr. President. I'm a witness on what Senator Raffy Tulfo and Senator Erwin Tulfo have brought up, that there are indeed developments that are ongoing in what is supposedly a protected watershed. That is the Sierra Madre. Yes, Senator, before we proceed, Mr. President, Senator Risa Ontiveros is seeking the floor. I move that she be recognized.
Senator Risa Ontiveros, recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Gusto ko lang pong i-manifest yung pagsuporta ko sa diwa ng privilege speech ni Senator Erwin Tulfo. Na-appreciate ko po talaga napapanahon dahil sa muli nga pong pagdanas natin. Hindi lang po dun sa sinasabing storm-breaking capacities ng Sierra Madre, kung hindi yung hindi matatawarang halaga ng pag-reforest sa kanya dahil sa again, hindi matatawarang economic, social, and environmental services na ibinibigay ng pinakamahalagang mountain range sa buong Luzon dito sa ating mga komunidad. At naglulook forward po ako na makipagtrabaho sa mabuting Ginoo mula sa Palawan sa mga kaugnay na panukalang batas sa mga susunod na panahon. At sa panahon din ngayon na papasok po tayo sa plenary interpellations at proposal of amendments sa ating budget para sa taong 2026. Nais ko lang ipaalam sa good gentleman from Palawan na kasalukuyan po kaming nagda-draft, inaayos yung wording at possible sources of funding para sa isang general provision kaugnay ng Sierra Madre Resilience. So muli po, Mr. President, salamat po kay Senator Erwin Tulfo. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Mr. President, our Minority Leader, Senator Alan Peter Gaetano, is taking the floor.
The Minority Leader, Senator Alan Cayetano, is recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. Senate President, our dear colleagues, and unang-una siguro, just as a manifestation and a thanksgiving sa ating Panginoon na yung nakita nating laki ng bagyo. Marami pa rin na pinsala, grabe pa rin ang tama sa ilan mga lugar, but all of us who saw the pictures and comparing it with Yolanda, comparing it with the past storms, and then of course, yung bagyo din na pinagdadaanan natin sa corruption, I just wanted to express, thanksgiving sa Panginoon at sa lahat ng Pilipino na nagkaisa tayo during this time. Having said that, it does tell me one thing. If you see our discussions today, EDCOM, at lahat ng problema na lumabas sa EDCOM, and I'd like to thank Senator Win and Senator now Secretary Angara, lahat ng nasa EDCOM. Kayo po ni former Senator Edgardo Angara sa EDCOM 1. Pinag-usapan din natin yung classroom kanina, ngayon naman Sierra Madre. The simple manifestation that I want to do, Mr. President, is that when we start the budget on Thursday, we should start looking at this as an opportunity to do something very decisive and to do it differently. So usually every year we try to do it better. Each Congress, 17, 18, 19, 5, 6, 7, we try to improve, innovate. But etong disruption, etong gulo, etong nagdidebate po tayo, no? Senator Marcoleta, Senator Lacson have different points of view on many things, but I think in the end we all want one thing, di ba? Pag nagdadasal po tayo, sabi, your kingdom come here on earth as it is in heaven, at yung kingdom ng Panginoon ay maayos. So the manifestation that I want to make is that I look forward to working with all of you sa budget, but sana ma-convince din natin yung executive department at saka yung House of Representatives, lahat ng ating kababayan, na we have to do things differently. If we have to ban all these kinds of development from Sierra Madre, let's just do it. Diba? If we have to decide, will we take out, suspend muna 2 years from K-12 habang binibuild yung classroom, or do we move 100 billion to classrooms? Hindi lang classroom yung problema, new schools, yung lupa. EDCOM, problem after problem, nire-report every month, but mabagal tayo magsolusyon. We took out 200 billion from DPWH, almost 300 billion. Ngayon, 50% daw, overpriced. So all of this doesn't have to lead to frustration. All of this can lead to opportunity na, sige. So I put it this way, kanina may nakasalubong akong congressman. Sabi ko, pare, anong pinakagusto mong kumpanya sa Pilipinas? Is it San Miguel? Is it Ayala Corp? Is it PLDT? If I tell you gather 100 people today at bilhin natin, siguro kahit 1,000 taong kunin mo, hindi natin mabibili, di ba? Pero halimbawa, nagkaskandalo yung kumpanya na yan. Bumaksak yung stock nila. At kayo, marami kayo, may cash kayo. Baka mabili nyo. Pag binili nyo, hindi nyo lang itutuloy. Nagkaskandalo nga, nagkaproblema. Pero magandang kumpanya. Anong gagawin nyo? May babaguhin kayo na napakaganda para muling bumangon at lumaki yung kumpanya na yon. So I just like to speak a little bit of encouragement. I know we'll be having deep debates in the next few days, Mr. President, and I look forward to doing it in a very professional manner. But I'd like to encourage all of us that there's an opportunity to do something very different. To really solve, to disrupt, but to be able to quantum leap. So, kumbaga game changer ang kailangan approach natin sa mga panahon na to. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Majority Leader.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we refer the previous speech of Senator Erwin Tulfo and all the interpretation manifestation thereon to the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved. So referred.
Mr. President, the gentleman from Camarines Norte and Nueva Ecija, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, would like to deliver a privilege speech. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Robin Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa ating pinunong mayorya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ginoong Tagapangulo, mga ginagalang kong kasamahan sa Senado, ako po ay tumitindig sa pulpitong ito ngayong hapon sa bisa ng personal at kolektibong pribilehiyo. Sa mga nagdaang linggo at buwan, sunod-sunod pong sinubok ang ating bayan. Hindi pa man nakakabangon ang ilang lugar sa pagyanig ng lupa, nasundan na agad ng pagbagyo at pagbaha. Sa aking pagpunta kamakailan sa Cebu, nakita ko ang dalawang mukha ng sakuna, ang bigwas ng lindol at hagupit ng bagyo. Magkasunod nilang winasak ang bayan. Mga pader na bumigay, mga bahay at mga establishmentong pinaghirapang itaguyod ng ilang taon ay gumuho. Mga sasakyan na nagkapatong-patong at mga komunidad na hanggang ngayon ay nababalot pa rin ng takot at pangamba. Sa mga ganitong panahon, lagi na lang nating naririnig na pinupuri ang pagiging resilient o matatag ng mga Pilipino. Halos nakatahina ang katangingang ito sa ating pagkatao. Pilipinong matatag, matibay ang loob, matiisin sa gitna ng sakuna. Palibasa ba ang mga Pilipino ay matatag? Dapat bang palagi na lamang siyang makaranas ng paghihirap at pagdurusa? O likas bang delikado talaga ang Pilipinas pagdating sa mga sakuna? O naging ganito na lang kadelikado dahil sa kapabayaan at pagsasamantala? Mahigit po 4 na milyong Pilipino sa 8 rehiyon ang sinalanta ng Bagyong Tino. Mga ari-arian, mahigit 155,000 bahay ang naitalang nawasak, 155,000. At ang naitalang pinagsamang halaga ng pinsala sa agrikultura at infrastructure ay tinatayang nasa 337.6 million at baka tumaas pa. Ang isang hindi katanggap-tanggap at pumupukaw sa dibdib ng bawat Pilipino ay ang mahigit 200 ang naitalang nasawi. Kinain ng putik na lagpas tao at mahigit 100 ang nawawala at mahigit 500 ang sugatan. Habang bumabangon pa lamang ang iba nating mga kababayan at mga institusyon sa nagdaang bagyo, dumating naman ang Bagyong Uwan na nanalanta sa mahigit 2 milyong Pilipino sa 15 rehiyon. Sa kasalukuyan, mahigit 800,000 ang nasa evacuation centers. 6 ang naitalang nasawi at tinatayang mahigit 4,000 bahay ang napinsala. Naulat din ang pagbaha sa mahigit 200 lugar, habang halos 300 bahagi ng kalsada at higit sa 50 tulay ang hindi madaanan sa kasagsagan ng bagyo. Nakaranas din ng pagkawala ng kuryente at supply ng tubig sa mahigit na 400 lungsod at munisipalidad, kasama na po ang aking probinsyang Camarines Norte. Sa mga karanasan nating ito, nabunyag na naman ang katiwalian sa mga proyekto. Mga maninipis at tinipid na poste ng gusali, mga seawall na madaling masira at bumigay, ang katagang flood control ghost projects pala ay hindi lamang ghost sa kadahilan ng hindi sila nakikita at nararamdaman, kundi dahil mumultuhin tayo ng mga ito sa tuwing magkakaroon ng kalamidad. Mumultuhin tayo ng kapabayaan at katiwalian na pinabayaan nating manuot sa sistema. At kung may dapat tayong mapagtanto sa lahat ng ito, iisa lang ang katotohanan. Hindi kalikasan ang may problema. Sistemang bulok at palpak. Kung matatagman ng ating mga mamamayan, hindi po yun nangangahulugan na kailangan nating hayaang dumanas sila ng hirap sa bawat sakuna. Ang resilience na ginagayak ng bawat Pilipino bilang isang tatak ng karangalan ay naging tabing na din na nagkukubli sa kawalan ng pananagutan. Bilang mga mambabatas, tungkulin nating itaguyod sila. Ibsan ng bigat na kanilang dinadala. Mas lalo pang palakasin ng kanilang loob at patatagin ng kanilang diwa. Our people deserve more from us. Hindi salita, hindi grandstanding, kundi sa gawa. Tunay na malasakit at tapat na paglilingkod. Kaya po noong Setyembre pa lamang, isinusulong ko na ang Senate Bill number 1299 o Mahiya Naman Kayo Act na naglalayong ganap na alisin ang ekwasyon, ang panghihimasok ng mga mambabatas sa pagtukoy, pagpopondo at pagpapatupad ng mga proyekto. Layon din ng panukalang ito na patatagin ang koordinasyon ng national government sa mga local government units, sa mga infrastructure projects na itatayo sa kanilang mga lugar. Kung ang isang proyektong pang-infrastructure ay itatayo sa isang probinsya, munisipyo, syudad o barangay, dapat ito ay alam ng mga local government officials doon. Hindi na pwedeng surprise na lang ang mga proyekto na ikagugulat ni governor, ni mayor o ni kapitan. Naalala ko pa noong 2024, matapos ang pananalasa ng Bagyong Christine, personal ko pong tinutukan ang pagbaha sa Camarines Sur dahil ako po'y Bicolano. Nakita ko kung paanong ang ilang proyekto ng flood control, imbis na makatulong, ay naging sagabal pa sa natural na daloy ng mga ilog. Isa itong malinaw na halimbawa kung paanong ang hindi konsultadong proyekto ay nagiging sanhi na mas matinding sakuna. Maaalala din na sa kasagsagan ng mga bagyo noong Hulyo nitong taon, nanawagan po si Manila Mayor Isko Moreno na ibigay sa mga LGU ang pamamahala sa mga pasilidad kontra baha. Dapat sa kanila magsimula ang proyekto. Dapat sa kanila manggaling ang plano. Dapat sila ang nagpapasya kung paano magpoprotektahan ang kanilang mga mamamayan. Ang trabaho ng legislatura ay magbigay ng otorisasyon sa pamamagitan ng batas. Hindi ng padrino. Magbigay ng gabay. Magbigay ng solusyon, hindi ng problema. Kung pumalpak ang proyekto, kung may pagkukulang, dapat malinaw kung sino ang mananagot, hindi na kung ano-ano pang investigasyon. Ngunit, kahit ayusin natin ang sistema, paano po tayo makakaiwas sa sakuna kung hindi natin alam ang panganib? Kaya, isinusulok ko rin po ang Senate Bill number 1481, ang National Hazard Mapping Act. Kailangan natin ng malinaw, kumpleto at updated na pambansang mapa ng panganib. Isang mapang magsasabi kung saang delikado tumira, kung saan hindi dapat magtayo, at kung saan dapat ililikas ang mga pamilya bago dumating ang bagyo, lindol o pagguho. Ang mapang ito ay buuin sa pamamagitan po ng koordinasyon ng DNR, NAMRIA, DOST, Climate Change Commission, NDRRMC at DILG. At i-update tuwing 5 taon. Ang mapang ito ang magiging gabay ng LGU sa zoning, urban planning, relocation at emergency response. Hindi pwedeng hula-hula ang buhay ng Pilipino. Hindi pwedeng tsambahan ang kaligtasan ng komunidad. Ang respeto sa siyensya ay respeto sa buhay. Sa diwa ng katarungang panlipunan at malasakit, ang inyong lingkod ay maghahain din po ng isang resolusyon na nanawagan sa lahat ng government financial institution at iba pang ahensya na magpatupad ng pansamantalang moratorium sa pagbabayad ng utang sa mga lugar na idiniklarang nasa ilalim ng state of calamity. At humihikayat sa mga pribadong bangko at institusyon na makiisa sa diwang ito. Sa ganitong sitwasyon na labis na silang sinubok ng panahon, huwag na natin pong dagdagan pa ang kanilang pagkalugmok. Ako rin ay nananawagan sa ating pamahalaan at sa mga kapwa lingkod bayan na pawiin muna ang mga labis na formalidad, masalimuot na proseso at mahigpit na requirement sa pagbibigay ng serbisyo sa ating mga kababayang labis na naapektuhan ng kalamidad. Sa panahon ng pangangailangan, ang agarang tulong ay hindi dapat hadlangan ng masyadong maburokrasyang pagkilos dahil ang bawat segundo ay mahalaga sa buhay at pagbangon ng ating mga mamamayan. Huwag nating gawing normal ang pagtitiis, ang pag-akyat sa bubong, ang paglusong sa tubig baha at putik na may panganib na makuryente. Sa makatwid, hindi palibasay sila'y matatag. Maaari na nating hayaang maging normal na bahagi ng buhay ng Pilipino ang pagdurusa. Ang resilience ay dapat sandata, hindi kapalit ng responsableng pamamahala. Ang katatagan ay dapat pinupunan ng tulong, hindi inaabuso ng kapabayaan. Ang pagtitiis ay hindi parusa. Kaya muli, ako po'y nananawagan. Mahiya naman tayo kung inuuna natin ang politika kaysa buhay. Mahiya tayo kung kaya nating manahimik habang may nagdurusa. Ngunit kung kikilos tayo ngayon, kung iwawasto natin ang sistema, kung uunahin natin ang pagmamalasakit kaysa pamumulitika, maibabalik natin ang dangal sa serbisyo publiko. May pag-asa pa ang Pilipinas. Ngayon ang panahon para makita ang peligro bago dumating ang trahedya. Ngayon ang panahon para hindi lang tayo maging matatag, kung hindi maging ligtas. Ngayon ang panahon para protektahan ang buhay ng Pilipino, hindi ang kapangyarihan. Mga kasama, mga kapwa ko lingkod bayan, sa akin pong pag-ikot, kitang-kita ko po ang hindi ko po maipaliwanag sapagkat hindi na po kailangan ng matinding research o mga scientists kung anong naging problema dito sa ating bayan ba't maraming namamatay. Saan po kayo nakakita na mga riverbed may nakatirang tao? Mga daanan ng tubig, ginawang tirahan ng tao at ginawa pang barangay. Siguro naman po mga kasama, kitang-kita na natin kung saan ang problema. Ang kailangan po natin ngayon ay political will. Kailangan po natin talagang ipabatid sa ating mga kababayan na hindi po tinitiran ang riverbed at hindi po tinitiran ang mga ilalim ng tulay. Hindi po tinitirahan at hindi po pwedeng gawing barangay ang daanan ng tubig na inukit ng kalikasan. Yaan pong mga lugar na yan, sa matagal na panahon, 1,000 taon, yaan po ay daanan ng tubig. Kaya mga kasama, pagbutihin pa natin, dahil ka nga ng aking yumaong ama, ang tunay na karangalan ng tungkulin ay nasusukat hindi sa karangyaan ng posisyon, kundi sa malasakit, serbisyo, at pagsasakripisyo ng sarili para sa pinaglilingkuran. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we refer the privilege speech of Senator Padilla to the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so referred.
Mr. President, the Jetta lady from Antique and Malabon, Senator Lauren Legarda, would like to deliver a privilege speech. I move that she be recognized.
Senator Loren Legarda is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, I would like to commend our colleague Senator Erwin Tulfo for his privileged speech, and Senator Robin Padilla as well, both their privileged speeches on the environment and how we must nurture nature. So count this, Mr. President, as strike 3 on the environment. Typhoons Tino and Uwan had claimed hundreds of lives. Typhoon Tino, 232 lives and affected over 4 million Filipinos. Typhoon Uwan, still unfolding, has already left more than 6 dead and displaced 2.4 million. Cebu and Negros were the worst, with 150 fatalities for Cebu, followed by Negros Occidental with 42, Negros Oriental with 21. These tragedies hit close to home, barely 2 months after a 6.9 magnitude quake in the same region that claimed 79 lives. This is nature speaking to us clearly. Our growth has outpaced our safeguards. Beyond the natural calamities, unchecked mining and reclamation, deforestation and illegal logging, unregulated construction, uncontrolled urban sprawl into no-build zones, poor solid waste management, corruption in infrastructure, and government clearances have eroded the very foundations of safety and sustainability, including the fact that we do not follow the no-build zones, that we do not follow the NAMRIA maps where it clearly dictates where to build and not to build. For decades, we've answered floods with concrete, higher walls, longer dikes, deeper drains. Yet every storm proves that concrete alone cannot protect us, especially when it's weakened by corruption, flawed clearances, or lost as ghost projects. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources Water Resources Management Office recently evaluated over 4,000 flood control projects nationwide. The findings are alarming. 42% were problematic, unconstructed, duplicated, or already existing. Nearly 30% were poorly situated, dikes that block natural river flow, protect idle lands, or redirect water into communities. Some projects that DNR confirms were reclamation in disguise, converting riverbanks and wetlands into land development zones. Even more alarming, the DPWH admitted that many flood control projects lacked environmental clearance certificates, despite being environmentally critical and high risk. Worse, the agency itself acknowledged that some of these structures have actually worsened flooding and, in fact, should be dismantled altogether. We spent billions for safety. Instead, we engineered vulnerability. To this, science tells us what experience has long confirmed. Flooding cannot be solved by fighting nature. It can only be managed by working with it. The UP Resilience Institute urges a shift from rigid mega projects to flexible, nature-based, science-driven systems. At its core, flood protection should begin not with cement, but with soil, trees, and ecosystems, a layered defense shaped by nature's design. Upstream, we must restore our watersheds. Our forests are the first line of defense. When watersheds fail, everything downstream suffers. Reforest degraded mountain slopes with native tree species. Establish bamboo and vetiver groves along riverbanks to anchor soil and slow runoff. Encourage small catchment ponds and contour farming to retain rainwater and reduce erosion. Protect existing forests from illegal logging, mining, and encroachment. Along our rivers, we must restore their room to breathe, reconnect floodplains, and rehabilitate riparian buffers. restore wetlands that once acted as natural sponges, absorbing excess water during storms. Replace hard concrete embankments with eco-engineered alternatives. Gabions and coconuts reinforced with deep-rooted vegetation that stabilize slopes naturally while supporting biodiversity. Stop converting riverbanks into commercial or residential zones. In our cities, we must allow water to find safe paths instead of forcing it underground. Build sponge infrastructure, permeable pavements, bioswales, rain gardens, and retention parks that absorb runoff instead of channeling it. Promote green roofs, urban tree planting, and household rainwater harvesting systems. Enforce strictly the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act because every clogged canal begins with a single piece of plastic carelessly discarded. Respect and observe the National Building Code's no-build zones and follow the NAMRIA maps, which is said to have been distributed to all local government units. Stop granting exemptions for politically connected persons. And along our coasts, we must bring back the mangroves and seagrass beds that shield us better than any seawall ever could. To make this happen, governance must evolve as much as our climate has. Agencies must act as one under a unified, integrated flood management and river basin framework with support from local governments, academic institutions, and local communities. The DPWH must align all flood projects with DNR WRMO's satellite validation database before approving or funding any new structure. Equally vital is the use of multi-hazard maps, integrating flood, landslide, earthquake, and storm surge risks to guide all planning and infrastructure decisions. These maps are not for mere academic exercise. Without them, we build where water should flow and settle where danger waits. They must be regularly updated with satellite data used by all agencies and LGUs and made public to ensure accountability and preparedness. All future projects must be science-based, risk-informed, and climate-aligned, not politically convenient or politically determined. It must follow the stream of water based on master plans, river basins, not determined by politically determined districts. We must also enforce what already exists: the Clean Water Act, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, the National Building Code's no-build zones, and the NAMRIA maps. When told to evacuate, let's not wait. Never risk lives or our rescuers' lives. Penalties must be maximized for those who steal amid calamity, before or after. Floods are not acts of God when negligence is written into the blueprints. But governance is not only about agencies that comprise government. It is instead our people. We must remind our citizens that resilience begins at home. Do not throw waste into canals, rivers, or streets, or waterways. Hindi po basura ang ating kapaligiran. Do not obstruct waterways or build structures in riverbeds, drainages, or canals. Hindi po dapat linalagyan ng anumang struktura ang daluyan ng tubig. Support barangay-level waste segregation programs. The barangay is the front line of environmental protection. Gradually reduce reliance on single-use plastics. In fact, I refiled the measure to ban single-use plastics, and some local government units have already passed local ordinances. Participate in community-based tree planting, note native trees, river cleanups, and disaster preparedness drills. Needless to state, every dike that collapses is not only a failure of construction, it is a failure of imagination. At the end of the day, flood control should not be measured by how many walls we build, but by how many lives and ecosystems we protect. The legacy of Tino and Juan should not be another round of bidding for quick repairs, but a nationwide realization that resilience cannot be engineered slowly by concrete. It must be grown, restored, and sustained. We cannot keep reacting to typhoons or floods. We must live with them wisely, with foresight, science, and the guidance of nature. Harmony begins where greed ends and where governance works with nature. At the end of the day, Mr. President, the best flood control is nurturing nature, protecting our watersheds, protecting our forests and not logging them, and protecting the mangroves that are the best buffer and defense against storm surge. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we refer the privilege speech of Senator Legarda to the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change.
Any objection? Hearing none, so referred.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with second additional reference of business.
Paano si ano? Hindi, paano si Lee? Ha? Pagod siya? Meron pa. All right. Okay. The Secretary will proceed with the second additional reference of business.
Second additional reference of business, committee reports. Committee report number 8, submitted by the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development on Senate number 155 by Senator Tulfo E. An act simplifying the documentary requirements for accessing government financial assistance and for other purposes, recommending its approval with amendments, sponsored Senator Tulfo E.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 9, submitted by the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development on Senate number 254 by Senator Tulfo E. An act penalizing selective, discretionary, and discriminatory acts in the delivery of social protection programs, recommending its approval with amendments, sponsored Senator Tulfo E.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader. The session is suspended before we recognize again the Majority Leader.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I move that we transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders committee report number 8 on Senate Bill number 155. This is the bill on the simplified government aid access. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 155 under committee report number 8.
Any objection? Motion is approved. Consideration of Senate Bill number 155 is now in order. The Secretary is directed to read the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the records the whole text thereof.
An act simplifying the documentary requirements for accessing government financial assistance and for other purposes.
Majority Leader.
To sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize Senator Erwin Tulfo, the chairperson of the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development. So move, Mr. President.
Hearing no objection, Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, today I rise before you to sponsor a measure that aims to make government assistance accessible not only in law but in practice. I humbly seek your support for the passage of Senate Bill number 155 under Committee Report number 8, an act simplifying the documentary requirements for accessing government financial assistance and for other purposes. This measure seeks to remove one of the most persistent barriers faced by millions of Filipinos, the burden of unnecessary and excessive documentary requirements. Alam po natin na sa bawat programang pangayuda ng pamahalaan mula sa medical assistance, burial assistance at iba pang financial assistance, ang isa sa mga pangunahing reklamo ng ating mga kababayan ay ang sandamakmak na hinihinging requirements bago mabigyan ng ayuda. Birth certificate, barangay clearance, certificate of indigency, certificate of residency. Minsan kailangan pa ng photocopy, notary public certification from multiple offices. Hingi lang po ng konting ayuda, kailangan pa po ng diploma, kailangan pa po ng mga kung ano-ano pa, marriage contract. Sa proseso pa lang na yan, ubos na po ang oras, pamasahe at lakas ng mga Pilipinong higit nangangailangan ng tulong. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, our goal is simple: to bring government assistance closer to Filipino people without drowning them in bureaucracy. The people who need help the most are often the ones who struggle to make complex, burdensome paperwork. Many of them don't have IDs, residence certificates, or proof of income because poverty makes it hard for them to get these documents. It is not enough to have programs in place. We must remove red tape that bars access to them. The process should be compassionate, not bureaucratic. Hihingi lang po ng pampalibing 5,000 ang ibibigay ng pamahalaan, kailangan pa ng katakot-takot na papeles. Kung kailangan niya na pong dalhin ang baul para sa mga papeles na ito ay kailangang dalhin daw. Napakahaba po, Ginoong Pangulo, at ang masaklap pa, papabalik-balikin pa ang pobre na pamasahe lang ay problema na nga. Kailangan ng lumabas ng pasyente sa araw na yon, bababalik pa sa Biyernes o next week. Marami sa kanila ay nakatira sa malalayong barangay, walang access sa internet o printer. At kailangan pang mag-antay ng ilang araw sa mga opisina ng gobyerno. Under this bill, Mr. President, all national and local government agencies and instrumentalities, including but not limited to DSWD, DOH, PhilHealth, and PCSO, will be mandated to standardize documentary requirements to only those strictly necessary to establish eligibility. Beneficiaries in need shall only be required to submit 1. Valid ID, 2. Billing statements, and 3. Referral or endorsement letter issued by the City or Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office or duly authorized local social worker or original or certified true copy of medical certificate, medical abstract of death certificate, whichever is applicable, and process request for assistance maximum of 3 working days upon submission of complete documents. In short, this bill promotes efficiency, transparency, and compassionate governance. Simplification does not mean we remove accountability. It means we trust our citizens and we trust our systems to be efficient, secure, and people-centered. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, this measure is a step toward more responsive and caring bureaucracy, a legislative measure that truly understands the daily realities of ordinary Filipinos. Sa bawat forms at documentary requirements na ating tinanggal ay may isang pamilyang makakatanggap ng tulong ng mas mabilis, Ginoong Pangulo. At sa bawat araw na natitipid sa proseso, may buhay na maaring naliligtas o mapabuti. I humbly urge you, my dear colleagues, to support the immediate passage of this measure. In doing so, let us make public service truly in service of the public. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Thank you, my dear colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo. The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 155.
Any objection? Hearing none, the suspend consideration of the measure.
Mr. President, Senator Estrada would like to be made co-sponsor and request that his co-sponsors his speech on Senate Bill number 155 be inserted to the record.
The so inserted. Senator Robin Padilla, you were seeking the floor.
Likewise, Mr. President, before we proceed to the third additional reference, let me congratulate our Majority Leader for receiving the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun.
Congratulations. Arigato.
Congratulations.
Senator Padilla, you were seeking the floor. Ano po yun?
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo. Nais ko lamang pong batiin ang ating pong una, siyempre po, si Senator Erwin Tulfo doon po sa kanyang talumpati patungkol po sa pinagdadaanan ng ating mga kababayan sa paghingi po ng tulong sa gobyerno. Totoo po ito. Kaya po minsan, nanggagaling na po sa bulsa ko. Minsan, dahil sa dami po nang inihingi, ako na lang po ang nagbibigay. Kaya ako po yung nagpapasalamat at isip po ito ng ating dating kalihim po ng DSWD. Dahil siya lang po talaga ang magsasabi ng katotohanan dito. Kaya binabati ko po siya. Pangalawa po, nais ko pong batiin ang bagong samurai. Ang aking pong lakan, Senator Mig Subiri. Ako po'y saludo sa inyo. Lahat po ng martial artist dito ngayon sa Pilipinas ay sumasaludo po sa inyo. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, Majority Leader, the
Thank
original
you, Mr.
one.
President. First of all,
Senator
thank
Subiri.
you. I would like to thank Senator J.V. Ejercito for pitching in for me today. I'll give a full report, Mr. Senate President, on the award that was given me today. I am still speechless because I was with the Emperor of Japan just this morning. Yung pantalon ko, yun yung suot ko eh. Kala ko nga, papasok na ako, naka-white tie. Sabi ko, dire-diretso na ako, nakasama yung mga award. But he gave his deepest and sincerest condolences to the death of the Filipinos that died these last two typhoons. And that really touched my heart, Mr. President. So I'll put my thoughts on paper and deliver a report to the Senate, hopefully either the next couple of days or by Monday. I'm also waiting for the official photo. Baka walang maniwala sa akin. But I'm happy that I'm here in the Senate. And thank you, Mr. President, for your patience. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
All right. So you're sure you are a samurai and not Ronin?
Again, omedeto. Congratulations to our Majority Leader. Mr. President, I move that we proceed to the third additional reference of business.
Secretary will proceed the third additional reference of business.
Third additional reference of business resolutions. Proposed resolution number 147, congratulating and commending the Philippine contingent to the 2025 International Practical Shooting Confederation Handgun World Shoot 20 for emerging victorious in said competition held from September 11 to 28, 2025 at the Frontier Shooting Range in Matlosona, South Africa. Senator Zubiri.
To the Committee on Rules.
Resolution 148, commending and congratulating Lovely May Orbeta for winning the historic gold medal, and Alexis Toilo, Noel Malikdem, Janice Hinojales, Giselle Bulahao, Eileen Oclarit, and Orbeta for claiming 2 bronze medals in the World Darts Federation World Cup held in Gyeonggi-do, South Korea from 22 to 27 September 2025. Senator Estrada.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Resolution 149, directing the Senate Committee on Labor and Employment to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to establish mechanisms for business adaptation and the protection of employee rights in the business process, outsourcing sector during calamities and emergencies. Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Labor.
Resolution 150, directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the proliferation of text scams sent through legitimate numbers of telecommunication companies, banks, and other service providers with the end in view of reviewing the implementation of RA 11934 or the SIM Registration Act. Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Public Services and Banks.
Resolution 151, commending the Yamaha Philippine Racing Team riders for their outstanding performance and exemplary representation of the Philippines in the recently concluded 2025 Asia Road Racing Championship. Senator Ejercito.
To the Committee on Rules.
Resolution 152, directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the situation of sick persons deprived of liberty, with the end in view of ensuring their right to health, access to humane conditions of detention, and strengthening the institutional mechanisms for compassionate release and adequate medical care. Senator Tulfo E.
To the Committee on Justice. Please proceed with the fourth additional reference of business.
Fourth additional reference of business, bills on first reading, Senate number 1448. An act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to End-Time Mission Broadcasting Service under RA 9342. An act granting the End-Time Mission Broadcasting Service a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain for educational and commercial purposes radio and television broadcasting stations in the Philippines. Senator Ejercito.
To the Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1449, an act modernizing the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, repealing for the purpose RA 7796, otherwise known as the TESDA Act of 1994. Senator Villanueva.
To the Committees on Higher Education, Civil Service, and Finance.
Senate number 1450, an act abolishing the imposition of value-added tax, amending for the purpose the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended. Senator Padilla.
Refer to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Senate number 1451, an act providing for the revised charter of the Overseas Filipino Bank, providing funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Padilla.
To the Committee on Banks, Migrant Workers, and Finance.
Senate number 1452, an act abolishing the Philippine International Trading Corporation and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Trade, Civil Service, and Finance.
1453, an act prohibiting the unlawful trade.
Civil Service, Trade, Civil Service.
Ay, bakit ganon? Ano tama yun?
Yun tama, sir. Government corporation.
Pareho kami na
Okay. Government, mali ito.
Yes.
It should be referred to the Committee on Government Corporations,
Civil Service.
Civil Service, and Finance.
Senate number 1453, an act prohibiting the unlawful lending, borrowing, or fraudulent use of licenses, permits, and other concessions granted by the state, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo E.
Referred to the Committee on Justice.
1454, an act promoting the adoption of digital payments for financial transactions of the government and all merchants and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo E.
To the Committees on Banks and Finance.
1455, an act abolishing the Department of Budget and Management, Procurement Service, DBMPS, and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Finance, Civil Service.
Senate number 1456, an act imposing excise tax on single-use plastic bags, amending for the purpose Section 288 and adding a new Section 150C in the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo E.
Referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Senate Number 1457, an act strengthening the coconut farmers' participation in the utilization of the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund, amending for the purpose certain provisions of RA 11524, otherwise known as the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act, and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo E.
Referred to the Committees on Agriculture and Finance.
Senate Number 1458, an act ordaining a national policy of free housing through use of rock and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Villar C.
To the Committees on Urban Planning, Local Government, and Finance.
Senate Number 1459, an act strengthening the role of local and regional development councils in the national budget process by requiring the prior endorsement as a requisite or condition sine qua non for the inclusion of any infrastructure project in the National Expenditure Program in the General Appropriations Act and the release of its corresponding allotment. Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Finance and Local Government.
Senate Number 1460, an act institutionalizing the medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients, MAFI program, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Health, Social Justice, and Finance.
Senate Number 1461, an act institutionalizing budget transparency and accountability safeguards in the inclusion and implementation of any and all infrastructure projects in the National Expenditure Program and the General Appropriations Act. Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Finance.
Senate Number 1462, an act establishing a framework for blue economy, promoting stewardship and sustainable development of coastal and marine ecosystems and resources. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Economic Affairs, Environment, and Finance.
Senate Number 1463, an act mandating the establishment of a national budget blockchain system to ensure transparency and accountability in government spending. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Science and Technology and Finance.
Senate Number 1464, an act providing for a Magna Carta for barangays. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Local Government, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 1465, an act establishing a national energy policy and regulatory framework for facilities utilizing waste-to-energy technology. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Energy, Environment, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 1466, an act further amending Republic Act Number 7836, otherwise known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994, as amended by RA 9293. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committee on Civil Service.
Senate Number 1467, an act institutionalizing detailed unit price analysis system in the determination of appropriations for any and all infrastructure projects in the National Expenditure Program and the General Appropriations Act. Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Finance and Public Works.
Senate Number 1468, an act creating the Abra River Basin Development Authority, prescribing its powers and functions, appropriating funds therefore. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Government Corporations, Economic Affairs, Ways and Means, and Finance.
1469, an act amending Republic Act Number 11350, otherwise known as the National Commission of Senior Citizens Act, and for other purposes. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Social Justice, Civil Service, that's it.
Senate Number 1470, an act abolishing the collection of bill deposits by distribution utilities and electric cooperatives, mandating the refund of existing bill deposits and for other purposes. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Energy and Public Services.
1471, an act amending Republic Act Number 11037, otherwise known as the Masustansyang Pagkain para sa Batang Pilipino Act, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo E.
To the Committees on Basic Education, Agriculture, and Finance.
1472, an act imposing excise tax on single-use plastic bags, amending for the purpose Section 288 and adding a new Section 150C in the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended. Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Senate Number 1473, an act instituting the medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients under the framework of the Universal Healthcare for All Filipinos, amending for the purpose RA 11223, otherwise known as the Universal Healthcare Act. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Health, Social Justice, and Finance.
Senate Number 1474, an act enhancing protection against online hate, online harassment, and cyber libel, prescribing penalties therefore and for other purposes. Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Justice and Public Information.
Senate Number 1475, an act establishing the National Framework for Water Resource Management and creating the Department of Water Resources Management and the Water Regulatory Commission, defining their mandate, powers, and functions, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Public Services, Civil Service, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 1476, an act ensuring the welfare and protection of business process outsourcing workers in the Philippines. Senator Ejercito.
Referred to the Committee on Labor.
Senate Number 1477, an act strengthening the Energy Regulatory Commission, amending for the purpose Sections 38, 39, 40, 41, 43, 44, 45, and 46 of RA 9136, otherwise known as Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001, Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Energy and Public Services.
Senate Number 1478, an act providing discounted or waived fees and charges to indigent job seekers in the issuance of certain pre-employment documents issued by government agencies, Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Labor, Social Justice.
Senate Number 1479, an act regulating and modernizing the practice of medical technology in the Philippines, repealing for this purpose RA 5527 as amended, providing funds therefore and for other related purposes, Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Health, and Finance.
Senate Number 1480, an act creating the Migrant Workers Relations Commission, Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Migrant Workers, Civil Service, and Finance.
Senate Number 1481, an act providing for the issuance of a list of low-lying areas of the Philippine territory vulnerable to rising sea levels as a result of climate change and areas at high risk for natural disasters, establishing no-build zones therein and appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Padilla.
To the Committees on Environment and Finance. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, Senator Legarda would like to be made co-sponsor and request that her co-sponsor's speech on Senate Bill Number 155 be inserted into the records.
So inserted into the records.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, November 12, 2025.
Any objection? Chair hears none. This session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, November 12, 2025.